Hey everybody, it's Kevin here with Before I Forget, and as always, I have my co-host, the guy who always wears the San Francisco 49ers hat, even though they lost, Tyree Brown. Say hi, Tyree.
Hey, Tyree.
Hey, today we have a special guest with us. Actually, I say that all the time. All of our guests are special. I really do mean that. But this guy, really great storyteller, has a really interesting background in the military. I'm gonna let him tell a little bit more about himself. Matt Stryker, go ahead, man.
Okay. Well, so you want me to just start like from regular army all the way to now, or just military stuff?
I mean, whatever, man. You can say whatever you want to say. Just a quick introduction, though. You know what I mean? We're gonna get into
So
things.
like 2 minute.
You can take as long as you want, honestly.
All right. Okay. So yeah, my name's Matt Stryker. That's actually not the name that I was born with. I changed my last name when I got married. Like both my wife and I had really boring last names. And we were like, why would she take my name? Or, we do some like hyphenated horse shit. Let's just come up with something that we think is cool and go with that. So
Dude, that
Stryker
is
is what
actually
I
kind
landed
of
on.
cool.
I
I was
fucking
actually kind of wondering, even when I saw your name, I was like, fucking Striker, dude. It's a kind of a rad name.
It's a dope name. It was her idea, really. Like it wasn't even my idea. It was Stryker was hers.
Yeah.
I was trying to go with Batman for a while just because I thought it would be the most hilarious thing that people would be like, Mr. Batman?
Yeah. Have
Um,
you seen the TV show The League?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Chalupa Batman, the
Yeah,
bull.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Jason, was it Matsu, whatever his last name is, that dude. You know what I'm talking about, Rafi.
yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah.
he's the best on there. Anyway, okay, so back to the actual question that you asked me. So I joined in '03. 2 weeks out of high school, I went to be a scout. Well, initially I was going to be an intel analyst because I got like a 93 on the ASVAB. They're like, you can be whatever you want. And I got in that MEPS office and they fucking tricked my ass. So I was a scout for 4 years. I did one deployment to Iraq. And during that deployment, I reclassed to become a 15 Tango. And then I found out about the 160th, which is Special Operations Aviation Regiment. We're the guys who take operators to targets. So I went and I did that from '07 to close to the end of 2010. I got out. I was an aircraft mechanic for a minute. I went and I got a bachelor's in aerospace engineering, started doing software work. I got my master's in aerospace engineering a couple of years ago. And now I do aircraft simulation work.
Dang. Yeah. So that's a lot of really cool things, minus the Cap Scout.
Yeah. Bro, that
So
video they had, man, it was so good compared to the other ones. And like, I'm a dumbass 17-year-old kid. Like, it was 2002 when I signed up.
yeah.
Like, everybody's like super pumped. 9/11 happened. We're like, we're gonna get those fuckers. I
Yeah.
get it. Like, you want to do this, and he's got like I mean, I've already told the story on TikTok, but it's like there's a guy up in a tree with a fucking Barrett 50 cal just shooting rounds off. There's a dude in a dune buggy with a Mark 19, like he's driving and shooting the Mark 19 at the same time, just doing donuts in the desert. And they show a Bradley tank going off of a jump, and off is the key part. They don't show it landing and all the track fucking exploding off. But it's just like the music was super cool. It was like metal guitar in the background.
you were sold.
Dude, that got me so hard. I was like, of course I'm gonna do that. I'd be an
Yeah.
idiot not to do it.
Dude, they did the same thing to me, man. So we both joined in '01. And so I joined like May of 2001. I graduated
Oh
infantry
shit.
OSUT September 14th, '01. So like 3 days after 9/11. But like I go to the recruiting office, I go to MEPS or I go take my ASVAB, do my testing and all that stuff, and I come back and they gave me a list of things. I don't remember what my ASVAB score was, but it wasn't a 93 because I'm not smart. Um, but they were like they were really trying to push 13 Mike.
Hmm.
And I was like, nah. I had a buddy of mine drop out of high school, get his GED, and went 11 Bravo. And I was like, I don't want to do 11 Bravo. He said you shoot machine guns and you roll around in the dirt and you do all kinds of cool shit. So that's the stuff that I want to do.
Roll
And they're
around the
like,
dirt.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
You roll around the dirt? No, fuck you.
yeah, right. But no, so I went infantry, but they showed me the video of like, and I swear to God, like there were rangers or whatever the hell, like clearing rooms and like busting down doors and doing this and doing that, and I'm like, that's the shit that I want to do, flashbangs and all kinds of cool shit. And then
Yeah.
so we'll go infantry, and then we ended up going to Kosovo in '02, and it was definitely not any of that. We went to Iraq in '04, finally got to do some cool guy stuff, or you know, a
Yeah.
relative to our MOS, but
I mean, that was like '04 was Abu Ghraib. Like that's right before the ROE swapped.
yeah, right. Yeah, we were the Wild West.
Yeah.
It was the good time to be there. In terms of
The ROE.
survivability. Yeah.
Yeah. Not hamstringing you.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of man. We got authorized. We Intel supported it too, but we got notified of like spotters, right? People that would like wave at us, and we're like, oh, they're just being friendly. And then next thing you know, there's an ambush happening like on the opposite side of them or whatever. And so Intel was like, actually, these guys are they're spotters for whenever you guys are in position. They're to initiate the ambush, and so they were like, shoot them.
Thought you were my bros.
Yeah. So they told us go ahead and just fucking shoot them.
Yeah.
We're like, excuse me, like shoot people that are waving at us. That's
Oh,
a
dude.
uh,
Uh,
Just
the
pass
first,
REs to these people.
yeah. Well, I have an interesting story about the MREs. Well, it's super short, but like the first fob that I went to was Fob Charlie in Al Hilla in Iraq, and it was like a multinational fob where we had Mongolians doing the tower guard, we had like Polish dudes doing patrols, there was I think Canadians there, and there was like three other like it was just a conglomerate of a bunch of different people. But the Mongolians apparently were not allowed outside the gates because Iraqis and Mongolians hate each other, and the Mongolians would shoot anybody that got on their roof. So like you throw a frisbee on a roof, kiss that fucker goodbye because you're not getting up there. um, and those dudes would try and steal our weapons too. Like you'd be taking a shit and you'd have your M4 propped up against the door, and you just see this arm like dart in and try and take your shit.
The fuck?
What the fuck?
Seriously, like the Mongolians were nuts, man.
I didn't even know the Mongolians were over there doing stuff.
Yeah, I mean they left. So we closed down Charlie like April-ish of 06 and went up to Fob Falcon. But like as soon as we closed Fob Charlie, like Al Hilla went nuts and became like this hotspot for activity. But I think the Mongolians actually bounced at that point. But yeah, those dudes were nuts.
So when you were when you were scout, did you deployed in that MOS?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I know you deployed as 160th. Can you kind of talk about like the differences, like the tempo and just the overall mission, and just the like the like just standard living, day-to-day living, the differences between a scout and then being a pilot in 160th? Or yeah.
Crew chief.
Yeah. That's
yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, that's a huge question though, right? Like so there's like three different questions in that one question. Like so the video that you found of mine talked a lot about the mission set and the ROE. But I mean, like the missions, they're the stupidest fucking missions. Like when we went out to Al Hilla, we were in Fob Falcon, we would just drive around. We saw like barely no activity out there. So that's why we ended up closing down Charlie and going up to Falcon. But as soon as we went up to Falcon, we go up there and we replace these guys. And I remember being like next to a briefing that my commander was having with the commander of the people we were replacing. And he was pointing at a map and he was like, don't go here. Don't go here. Don't walk through here. Sure as shit, don't fucking drive through here. And don't talk to these people. And my commander's like, pussy. So we did all of that shit. We immediately lost 4 Bradleys. We lost every single Humvee that we had. And then we got new Humvees and we lost half of those. So it was just like we kept going out to this place called Arab Jabor and just getting our shit pushed in because like all the grass and stuff in the Tigris River Valley are like right next to the Tigris River. It's like fucking Vietnam, dude. You can't see anything.
Yeah.
So these dudes would just like we would hear the mortars pop off and it's just like a little boom and you'd be like fuck. And like if it hit close, you'd displace. If it hit far away, you'd be like, okay, chill for a sec. You hear it again, like you try and figure out where it's coming from. Like initially we were trying to like displace and like flank the enemy and do all the fucking cool army shit, but eventually we just started shooting in a fucking 360, and those dudes would chill out after that. So just like just people shooting like 204s off, just like just in any direction that you thought it was coming from, and especially if that happened when so we'd lose a truck, so we're driving on canal roads. These dudes would put an IED in, they'd cook a truck like in the middle of the convoy. So like one half is on one side, the other half's on the other side. And we'd have to get the guys out to come recover us. And the guys that came out to recover us were the most trigger happy people that I ever worked with in my life. And as soon as they started firing, it was like trying to stop an orgasm. Like these guys would they'd keep going. Like it would end eventually, but it had to go its course.
Yeah.
And nobody was covering their sectors of fire. Like somebody would start shooting off to the east and everybody would turn their shit off to the east and just start blasting away. But yeah, so that's the missions were just like unorganized chaos in the general area of Arab Jabor where all these people really didn't want us there. And everything that we did was absolutely fucking useless.
Yeah.
And the ROE was, oh, sorry.
No, it reminded me, like when we first got over there in 04, that was kind of the guidance that was given out to at least the headquarters element. We were mechanized. We had Brads, and our headquarters, they were in up armors. And our first contact ever, and Tyree, I think you were with first squad, right? So you were walking during this. I was RTO, so I was in the Humvee. But like we had a platoon of Abrams with us, and tank ran over a landmine or an IED or something, blew track, blew off a couple of roll wheels. And so the initial boom, right? The headquarters element is up there with the tanks, and they were apparently told fire in a 360, just shoot it indiscriminately in all directions.
Yeah. We
Well,
didn't make that shit up, dude. Like it just we were
yeah,
doing it.
yeah. We were my element. So I was in a Humvee, and then Tyree was on the ground, or first squad was on the ground, about 100 meters behind where this gun truck was firing. So he was like shooting at us. So we had tracer fire. We're like, holy fuck, we're getting shot at. Holy fuck,
Yeah.
it's tracers. Do the bad guys have tracers?
When did they get
We're
tracers?
doing
What the fuck? Yeah. So like our first contact, my first time to get shot at was friendly fire. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, at least you didn't get hit.
Right. Yeah.
You're saying like everything was real fucked up out there. How was the morale for you guys? You guys have to keep going on these missions. You keep
Oh, dude, it's dog shit. It's absolute dog shit. Like being in the army, like you just embrace the suck, right? So everything's gonna suck. And if it sucks more, you're like, well, I don't know what the fuck I expected.
Yeah.
So like it was nice when you would go out on a patrol and you wouldn't get shot at or blown up. So you'd be like, all right, today was a pretty good day. I'm gonna go back and play my PS2 in my fucking makeshift barracks room and watch some bootleg movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's you just have to keep going. Like you can't quit, obviously. So there's no other option but to push through. And I think that's the strength of the military, is that it teaches you that you have to push through. Like you're able to overcome shit that's just absolutely awful.
Yeah. Man, and I'll tell you, the level of resiliency from then to now in our troops. And I mean, I maybe deployed is a little different, but resiliency, like there's a need for MRT, the Master Resiliency Trainer. That came out a couple years ago, where they have this person go to the school and they teach you about how to become more resilient. But yeah, it's kind of like
go to SEER school. That shit'll teach you.
Did you go to SEER?
Yeah.
That's cool, man. I tried to do the online course.
On
JKO. It was too hard.
They just played fucking Yoko Ono at you.
It was too hard, man. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I get it.
Cold chairs, No, so then now life, as a crew chief in the 160th on deployments.
Yeah.
Like how was the comparison?
Well, I mean, it's so much better. Like it's so much better, but it's also so much worse as far as like just the volume of shit you have to do in special operations, because you are literally training or you're deployed. And that's the only two things that you're doing. You get like, I think I went on leave once the entire time that I was at the 160th. And that was actually to get engaged. And then I was like, fuck, I need to get out of this. But basically, we had a set of hours that we would be awake. And sometimes it would be day, sometimes it would be night. Like we're the night stalkers, but sometimes we swapped cycles and went into the days. So you'd wake up, you'd go do a daily on the aircraft, which is just like a general inspection. If there was any sort of maintenance that you had to do, you'd do that. But the whole time you're waiting on a set of messages that are either like get to the briefing room or get to the flight line. And it's usually like get to the briefing room, we think a thing is about to pop, and then get to the flight line and we're wheels up in 10 minutes out to the target. And then like when you're out there, it's just like pistol whipping a blind kid, dude. Like we had so much more firepower than any of these guys.
Pistol whipping. That I was gonna say, it must have been like fucking shooting turkeys in a barrel out there.
Dude, it's the best. It's literally the best when you like I know you guys went over all those rules, and I'm like, wank.
Yeah, and I'm over dying like pistol whipping a blanket. Like, fuck.
But those dudes are out there doing fucked up shit. Like you got them like dead to rights all day. Like
yeah, I mean most of the time the guys out in Afghanistan had fucking brass balls though. Like they marched happily into their death, which was pretty impressive compared to like the guys in Iraq. Like the guys in Iraq were real squirrely. dudes in Afghanistan just like. So I'll tell a story that I haven't told yet. I got a message that says my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully it doesn't go sideways.
Yeah, your video's being a little wonky, but there it is. There it goes back. It's all good.
Okay. Yeah. So we were out on a mission where the operators were hitting like a house or something. And what we do is we, you either drop guys off a certain distance away or you drop them like right on the target. But we were at the target. We were doing circles, like lazy circles, and that's usually what you do unless you're engaging a target. Because if you do tight circles, you're pulling G's, and it fucking sucks. So you're there waiting for something to happen. And as we're doing it, this is during the day. I look off and I see this guy like walking back. It was like a shed looking thing, like a place where you would put a tractor. He was walking back to get his tractor. And I thought like, oh, he's going out to his field to do some shit. And this dude's just real calm about it. Going back to his tractor, he pulls off a tarp, he hops on the tractor, and he starts driving it towards us. And then I look at the thing, and there's a fucking anti-aircraft gun on the tractor. And it's just a guy with this massive gun slowly rolling towards the target that we're at. Like, I'm just going to go over here and, help out. Like, the fucking balls on this guy. So, like, we went over and just like, wait, took care of him. But it was so fucking amazing because it's like it wasn't at night. He wasn't being surreptitious in any way, shape, or form. He just like fucking Conor McGregor strolling over to his goddamn anti-aircraft gun, thinking he was gonna come take us out.
Wait until they see this shit.
I know, it's so nuts. I mean, and that's like one of several stories of that deployment where guys just amazingly stupid and ballsy.
I mean, I've always kind of thought that about the Iraqis that we were fighting, or whoever there was intel that said they were Syrian or Saudi, but whatever. Those dudes. I mean, so you were mechanized infantry, right? Like the what the Bradley is equipped with.
Yeah.
And then we had a platoon of Abrams tanks with us, 4 of them, and then 4 up armored Humvees, right? And that was just our company. Sometimes we roll in larger elements.
Yeah.
And for these dudes, and that always blew my mind, like night operations, these guys would come out, run out into the middle of the street in their favorite fucking flip flops, and just start fucking dumping rounds at us with their AK.
Yeah,
knowing our capabilities, right? Like, why? Like, do you really believe in what you're in your cause like this much? Like,
he's fucking ready to go. He's
tired.
Ballsy. He's tired of living, man.
His favorite flip flops, man. They all had those favorite flip flops.
Yeah, the old Air Jerusalems.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah, I must steal that one, dude, for sure.
I stole that from Tyree, actually.
Okay. Well,
he first said that shit like 20 years ago.
There we go.
Man, they fucking loaded up. They're out there fucking AJs in the street flip-flopping with that fucking RPG on the shoulder, shooting personnel RPGs at fucking Bradley's like it's gonna do anything besides knock the paint off.
Oh, dude. We had did you guys have what the fuck is it even called? It's like the extra armor on the Bradley that was supposed to like repel
the reactive armor.
The explosive, the reactive armor. Yeah. We put reactive armor on all of our Brads, took one of them out, and then the next day it got cooked by an IED. Like it just like caught on fire from underneath and then cooked off all of that armor. And we had spent like the whole day just sweating our dick off, putting all this stuff on. We're like, yeah, we're gonna get these fuckers now. It's like first day out, just
No, we never. So our Brads, they definitely took rounds. They took IEDs, but they never hit any one of those blocks. Like never. Like I don't think any of them.
Side skirt only.
Yeah, side skirts. I don't think any of our Bradleys were taken down by IEDs. Like I don't think we lost any of our Brads.
Well, I'm glad we lost them because they were a fucking pain in the ass to drive around on canal roads and riding in those. No, I would much rather be walking on those roads than riding in anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I was happy to have the Bradleys. I mean, a Bradley in an urban environment where buildings are made out of like caked mud. Like, come on, yeah.
In an urban environment where you were at, I was on the fucking river in canal roads, and like that was just
not good at all. I was gonna say using the Bradleys around where we were in particular, like even though we were in a shitty country, shout out to Iraq. Some of the streets were well enough for our vehicles to fit through, and it was pretty cool until we hit the neighborhoods and the thousands of power lines and all that kind of shit. But yeah, wild stuff.
We did.
I was going to tell you a quick story. So you said earlier we gave those guys MREs. we used to give like half of our MREs, like the shitty ones, we would like toss half of them to kids. And I remember when we were still at Fob Charlie, like we would drive around to go like listen to mosque messages and go do like sweat assessments on towns. But one time we were driving through a town and we kind of got like semi-mobbed by kids. And I threw with this kid half of an MRE. And then I saw this dude like peek out from behind a corner and wait till we were mostly gone. And then as soon as he thought that we couldn't see him, he walked out and just fucking decked this kid in the face and took the MRE. I was like, well, I'm not doing that again. Shit.
Got that kid's lip busted.
Just
fucking
ate his lunch, dude. Like, literally 2 different ways.
Yeah. We so we had oh my God, I can't talk, a detainee center on Brassfield, and the favorite MRE of the detainees was the jambalaya.
Oh,
They ate the fuck out of that one. It was a good one, right?
yeah, that's a good one.
And then they got a detainee who apparently spoke English and could read English and was reading the ingredients. And jambalaya has pork in it.
Oh yeah. Oh fuck.
So yeah, the guards working that place they didn't even think about it. They were just like fucking giving them Murray, you know what I mean? And oh my God, there was an uprising. They were like pissed, fucking pissed.
I never saw that before. Like I know like for a fact if we ever passed out MREs in sector, they were the green ones because every now and then we got those, or we would throw them like individual bits. Like here's the fucking crackers. I wouldn't toss some fucking pork because that's
Skittles, things like that.
Definitely the charms, but good luck.
They sell those at Cracker Barrel
in hell.
Yeah, right. No, so I'm a reserve drill sergeant now, and last year I did a full cycle at Leonard Wood, and I went to Cracker Barrel there in like Waynesville, St. Robert, whatever it is, and they had charms there, so I bought a couple, right, and I took them out. We were actually going to the field that following day for their final FTX, and so I brought those charms out, and I just strategically placed them in the cough, and all the drill sergeants that I worked with had no idea what they were, had never heard of them.
What?
I was like, how the fuck? Because they don't have them in MREs anymore.
Oh,
and so the first sergeant was like, who the fuck brought these charms out here? I'm like, that's how I know you're old. But all these new drills, man, had never heard of them. Like, those are bad luck. And they were sitting there fucking eating them and shit. Like, oh, you don't want to do that. That's bad. That's a bad juju right there, man.
You introduced it to the group though.
Yeah, I did.
You were hoping that they were going to be like, oh, get this shit the fuck out of here. And instead, they're like the green ones are the best ones.
Yeah, no, I'm that guy. Come on, man. Yeah, I'm just whatever I can do to ruin it.
You're a reserve drill sergeant? How does that work?
So we have our normal drill weekends, and typically we do all the typical admin stuff. We do training. Like last drill we did IED defeat lanes. We train our candidates to get ready to go to drill sergeant school. So we make sure that they know their modules, that they can do PRT, they can do DNC, make sure their packets are good to go. And then for our annual training,
of course you guys are still using paper. Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, now the Army is actually going to this new system called IPS-A, and and it's supposed to do away with all paper. We just learned that last night, actually. So it's supposed to do away with all paper, leave forms, everything, and it's all going to be done through there, centralized, which is great. When they get it up and running.
Shout out to Major Jacks.
Right. Yeah, shout out to Major Jacks. But for our annual training, we're assigned to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and so we go up there and we backfill the active duty drill sergeants. And typically it's 3 weeks, 21 days. And then sometimes we get the option to do long tours. We call long tours. So it's the full cycle, and then occasionally we'll get options to mobilize for a year, and we'll go to Fort Leonard Wood or one of the other training sites. But yeah, it's pretty easy, pretty chill.
So when you say cycle, you mean like one iteration of basic?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So last year I was up there for almost 3 months, and I was able to do a full 9-week cycle from pickup to graduation.
Yeah. How is basic different now?
Man, 9 day. So I've been a drill sergeant since 2008.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I got my hat when I was 25, 26 years old. And my first time on the trail, I mobilized for a year in 2009 into 2010. So I went to basic in 01 for infantry OSUT. I was back in basic training as a drill sergeant in 2009, and then my last cycle was 2022. So it's a long range of the changes. And you know how it was when we went through. You went to Knox, right?
Yeah.
And you were combat arms, and so you probably got fucking hammered daily. right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not
That's all
mistaken,
I remember out of it.
right? Yeah, and you were OSIT too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just getting hammered constantly, like smoked left and right. You're not sleeping. You're given like fucking 13 seconds to eat all of your fucking food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doing KP, it just, miserable. In 2009, I went down to Fort Sill for a year, and the Army had implemented, your trainees will get 7 hours of sleep. You will
7?
not, yeah, seven,
The
seven,
fuck?
seven
Wow.
consecutive uninterrupted hours.
Motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
What? Who's pulling fire guard?
I was
Well,
just gonna ask.
yeah, and so that's the one. So fire guard is still a thing, right? So that's the one thing. Like you have to get up and do fire guard.
Oh.
But like I remember when I was in basic training, we had to do fire guard and suicide watch,
Mm.
right? So you're sleeping for an hour, you get up to do fire guard. You go to sleep for an hour and a half, you get up and do fucking suicide watch. You go to sleep for an hour, you get up for PT.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
I mean,
you
you
were
were
just
lucky
never.
if you got one shift of fire guard in my basic. Like that was a good night if you got one. Usually you
Yeah,
got two.
Yeah.
right. So back in that was in 09 when they started implementing all that stuff. They said no more smoke sessions. You're not allowed to smoke them. You can correctively train them, right? And so like
Okay.
there has to be an infraction. You can't just like arbitrarily drop them for shits and giggles, right? There has to be an
Well, I mean, so
infraction.
like what's the sorry to keep interrupting you. It's interesting. So what's the threshold for infraction?
Anything. And so
I mean,
that's
because that
that's
sounds like there's no change whatsoever.
yeah, right. So there's a loophole, right? There's always loopholes, and when you look at a platoon or a company of trainees, there's always something fucked up, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
walk out to an active duty formation and find pockets undone, boots laced wrong, fucking shirts not tucked in, people not wearing belts, people
Yeah.
wearing white socks. So it's easy to find infractions. So it's very, very easy. So then what they did is they said, okay, well, if you're going to drop them, if you're going to do corrective action, you have to have this memo that has these 10 or 12 different exercises. And based on the phase you're in, we'll tell you how many repetitions of each exercise you can do. And you have to do them in order, and you have to have that memo in hand. If any one of those things is not true, then you, as the drill sergeant, are in trouble.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then, so it would be like, let's say I drop you for not having a fucking belt. I'm only allowed to make you do 5 or 10 repetitions of whatever exercise. But that doesn't mean that, like, when I tell you to get back up, my buddy, hey, where's your fucking belt?
Mm-hmm. There
You
we
know what
go.
I'm saying? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
repeat the process.
Okay.
So
And
it's
you
more,
can is the rep is there a certain time limit on the rep? Like you could do like one rep takes 5 minutes.
yeah. When you got out, we were doing standardized PT, SPT, right? So
Yeah.
it's in now it's called PRT. SPT and PRT both tell you the pace. It's a moderate pace or a fast pace, so you have to be at that pace. So no more perfect push up, right? Where you
Yeah.
go down slowly and come back up slowly. But another loophole to that is, so I can't make a trainee do push-ups for fucking shits and giggles, right? Well, that's how it was back then. But that doesn't mean that I can't teach them IMT and buddy carries, and that doesn't mean that I can't take them out into a field and make them do buddy carries back and forth, or IMT back and forth, because
It's IMT.
Individual movement technique. So like high crawl,
Okay.
low crawl, 3 or 5 second rush.
You've got all these acronyms like super fresh in your brain, dude. And it's been 13 years since I was in special operations. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
so
But
long
so
ago.
I can take them out and I can do these things, but that's training, right? I'm not
Yeah.
correctively training. I'm just training them. We're getting better at buddy carries. We're getting better at IMT, right?
Yeah.
Because future training events will involve those things. And so I actually got approached by the brigade sergeant major down at Fort Sill, and he was like, "Hey, drill sergeant, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh, we're just out here doing buddy carries and IMT." He's like, "Oh, you sure you're not smoking them? Are you?" And I was like, "Oh, no, sergeant major, no, absolutely not. We're because we have XYZ coming up soon, and so we're just getting them prepared, more proficient at these tasks." It's like, "Okay, it's good training, good training. You got water out here for them?" So roger that, sergeant major, right over there in the water can. I got one down there, and I got one over there. He's like, "Okay." He kind of stood there for a second, looked around, was like, "All right, keep it up." I was like, "Roger that, sergeant major." Carried on with life. I was smoking them. They pissed me the fuck off.
It's like it's
See the piece of paper in my hand? I'm not.
it's such a weird, like circuitous pack of bullshit that you have to put together in order to do the same thing, right? Like it just like it's an interesting solution to the new problem, but at the end of the day, I'm just still smoking the dog shit out of him. So it's
Yeah.
like, and he's over there making sure that you're smoking the dog shit out of him in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's
so
good
that was in '09,
to figure that
right?
out. Like, not really like to figure it out, but it's good that you guys still figured out a way to keep them sharp because I don't think shit was going to get happen with a couple repetitions of
Yeah,
push-ups.
well, and you definitely have to be creative. So in 2017, I was there at Leonard Wood, in the MP Brigade, and now their rules were a lot more strict. You will not interrupt their sleep at all, aside from fire guard. You will not be in the building when lights out, unless you're on CQ. You will not cuss at them.
What?
Yeah, they said no cussing. uh, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, and
That's a doggone frickins up in that barracks.
yeah, no, exactly, and I cannot, I tried, I really did. I tried for the longest to be like dog, dag, fuck, you know what I mean? I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I think it's
Um,
important for you to have like a good like repertoire with these fucking with the cadets, right? Repertoire, is that the right word? The wrong word, whatever.
rapport,
Yeah, there you go. Right, rapport with these cadets. I'm all fucked up.
yeah,
Because like at any moment they can take something the wrong way and run with it to the fucking first sergeant. So like
yeah.
it's important for you to be like cool with these people, even though you're still trying to train them the right way. That's
Well,
that's fucking shit to deal with there.
That's so
yeah,
crazy, man. It's like we're gonna talk to the fucking first sergeant when I was in basic. We had this, oh man. Everything you're saying, like my mind is completely exploded right now just from like that data download. Like,
yeah. Well, so this last year I went up and I was in an infantry battalion at Fort Leonard Wood, and night and day. So the battalion sergeant major, had been he was the Morels platoon sergeant at RTB, Ranger Training Brigade, down in
mm,
Benning. So he had been working with Op 4 training rangers, and then the battalion commander was former fifth group. So these guys were all about training. These guys were all about the suck,
mhm.
and man, like night and day. Now we still stayed within regs as far as what we were allowed to do and everything, but we definitely those trainees definitely got the full effect of it. To me, reminded me more of my basic training.
Yeah.
Obviously we didn't dick with the sleep because that's a hard no, right? Like 7 hours, you're going to get that. Like this is the lights out. If this is lights out, this is wake up 7 hours later or whatever how the math worked out. But everything else in the waking hours, it was a different story. There was a lot of 11 Bravo drill sergeants in that formation, and they let it be known. So it definitely worked out. It was pretty cool. It was my last cycle, and so I definitely feel like it was full circle for me.
Yeah.
So pretty excited about that. But
That's cool.
yeah, it just kind of depends though, man. Like wherever you go in the army, it's a different world. The engineer battalions at Fort Leonard Wood, they have a lot of 12 Bravos. It's a combat MOS, and so they kind of stick to combat basic training, that the actual combat in BCT, they kind of stick to that. So a lot of these other softer MOSs, they don't really do that. And then of course
Mm.
Fort Jackson, they tend to get away with murder because they are where TRADOC is. So TRADOC doesn't look in their backyard a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, and that was that video that you saw of mine that led to you sending me the message. I made a mistake in like the first 5 seconds of it where I said regular army was under TRADOC, and so
Yeah.
many people like it was an
Hammered you.
unintentional engagement hack because that thing's got like 85,000 views now, and like there's still people in there like TRADOC's not regular army.
No.
It's so fucking funny. Like just and I didn't even like the whole thing that I was trying to do that was like separate regular army and special ops to be like they're different command structures, but the people just take like that one colonel. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're a fucking idiot.
Like I watched that video and I heard you say TRADOC and I just kind of rolled right over it because I was like, I mean, yeah, he probably meant Forcecom. And
Yeah.
then listen to
Well,
the
and then
rest of
like
the fucking
50 other
story.
people say Forcecom, and then like I put a comment in there like, I got it, guys. I even made a video where I was like, you were right, it's Forcecom and not TRADOC. Even though at the beginning I trolled a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's so funny when to completely pivot to an entirely different subject. It's really funny when like watching TikTok videos, I'll see stuff about like how people will intentionally put mistakes into their videos, or they'll do like little engagement hacks. Man,
Oh,
that's bullshit. That doesn't work. And then I accidentally do one. I'm like, holy fuck, right there. Look at it.
wow. That's
I
what we gotta
mean,
do.
what's the saying? No publicity is bad publicity, or bad publicity is good. I don't know how the fuck it goes. Tyree,
All publicity is good publicity.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, tell that to Cosby.
I mean, he still, I heard he's going on a comedy tour this year.
He's doing like a jail tour.
Yeah. He's gonna go around different cell blocks.
They got lots of pudding in there, so you know.
um, yeah, no, it's really funny. So we recorded with one of the female Army Rangers, Major Sydney Jacks, last night.
Okay.
And she's the first tabbed and scrolled Ranger in 75th Regiment, and so we talked a little bit about that too, like all the hate that she gets
Oh God.
just for existing.
Yeah.
And so you think like you make one tiny mistake in one of your videos and you say Tradoc instead of Forcecom, and then like just the hate that rolls in, and now all these people are fucking trying to troll you. I'm like, this guy's not fucking legit, blah blah blah. I mean, she gets a lot of that shit too, so it just kind of reminded me of that. But like, it really does kind of take something like that. So like it's a weird fine line, right? Like you say something fucked up, you get canceled, or say something kind of fucked up and you blow up.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. Well, I mean, and to be fair, like no one said I was an idiot. They just like they corrected me, and I'm sure that she gets like way worse stuff than I would ever get for making a stupid mistake on a video, just from like the dudes who are like, you're not fucking Ranger. Blah, blah.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, she gets a ton of hate. um, so life in the 160th though. So like, how long were your deployments? Like, were they still the
That's
same?
depends on. I mean, they were not a year, so it was like a 30 to 90 day type thing, depending on how long you were in. So if you were a new Jack, you were doing like a 90-day deployment. You're doing a couple of those back to back. Then you get down to like a 60, like a 45. I think they were like in 15-day increments, just kind of depending on how the scheduling worked out. So like, um, yeah, it basically just it was however many times the old guys wanted to go, they would do like a 30-day, and then we would just kind of fill in everything else around that, like scaling up from the people who were newer all the way to like the shitheads like me. Like I was only in for like 2 years, but 2 years was enough for me to get the fuck out because I did 3 deployments, and then like the rest of the time I was training.
Yeah, I'd imagine the tempo is like insane. I mean,
Yeah,
you hear about like special operations when they go over, 98 deployments or 5 months or however the fuck long it is, but like, oh, that's not a deployment; it's super short. When you hear about like the Ranger regiments going over for a short bit, and like, oh my god, that's not a deployment. You're only there for 3 months. Yeah, but they're like constantly out doing
yeah,
something. The
yeah.
160th, you guys are constantly out doing those things.
I mean, it was usually like a mission a night, sometimes two. Like 1 to 2 was normal, but I mean, there was days where we did 4, 3. Like, I mean, and every single one is just like balls to the wall. Like it could go south real easy.
Mm,
Like we're in Afghanistan. My bird got shot 4 times in a month.
dang.
So I mean, like it can get sketchy out there real quick.
Yeah, we what was it when I was coming back from R&R, I think, or when we went to R&R. I know they flew us out of Iraq on the C-130, and then did the combat takeoff and the combat landing. That was wild.
Yeah,
What were you a crew chief on?
I was a crew chief on MH-60s, so it's Blackhawks.
Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
that's got to be fun though, man.
Dude, I like I. It's a visceral memory of the first time taking off from the thing called a compass rose, painted on most like flight lines or runways where it shows like degrees and whatever. And I can remember like taking off from that, the feeling of taking off and then seeing like the compass rose go away, like the very first time it happened, and just being like, "Fuck!"
Was that
But
your first time in a helicopter though? Like, I
it
mean,
wasn't the first time in a helicopter; it was the first time taking off. So I mean, like when you go through like the flight training, like as far as like in a helicopter at all, yes. Like I hadn't been in like a one in like civilian life or anything like that. But the crew chief training, you start off on the ground, like they do like the basic, like here's how you do the daily inspection. Again, even though you were already doing it for like fucking years in the school and then in maintenance in the 160th. But then you do like you sit in the chairs for a while, you do a bunch of other shit, and then you start doing like taxis, and then you start doing like actual flights. And like the first flight is the thing that I can remember extremely well.
it's gotta be wild, man. And I've always heard like the 160th guys, like the dudes that fly those things are like the batshit crazy pilots of the army.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we recorded with my uncle. He was a Army aviation, and he talked about the difference between just your run of the mill pilot, your test pilot, and then your instructor pilots.
Okay.
And he said, he talked about like who would you rather be up in the air with, a regular pilot, instructor pilot, or a test pilot. And in my mind, I was like, probably a test pilot because that sounds more fun, right? And like a regular pilot, they're going to go out and do things. Instructor pilot, they're I just imagine like the little magnet on the back of the bird that says new driver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Proceed with caution or whatever the shit it says. And then the test pilot, and that's what he did in the latter part of his career. Is like, in my understanding of the test pilot was like, hey, this bird had issues. We got to take it up, make sure it's all operational on the ground. It's operational. It checks all the boxes, but we need it in the air to see if it continues to check all the boxes. And so then you take it up, and you never know under those pressures or those stresses, like, is that bird going to continue to check all the boxes while you're in the air? And then to me, that just seemed more fun. And so in my mind, I'm like, the way it was always explained to me, like the 160th pilots are these test pilots, but like to an extreme. They're like, it was explained to me like, hey, I wonder if a Black Hawk can do a loop-de-loop barrel roll under the Golden Gate Bridge while the pilots are blindfolded. And the guys are like, fuck it, let's try.
Well, I mean, we never did that, but no, the guys like, so the way that it was usually set up is you have two pilots in a Black Hawk, and one of them is usually like an old grizzled dude who's the pilot in command, and then there's somebody who's a little bit younger who is the secondary pilot. And we would do a ton of different types of missions. Like you have brownout conditions where you're landing into dust, and that's kind of like the easiest of the things where you're counting the guys down. You'll have like rope missions where you're flying in and they drop the ropes out and people go out and you have to keep the bird kind of steady. You have one wheels where you're putting a single wheel on like a building and you have to keep that there and have to keep the tail, not going crazy. And then you have like shipboard stuff, which is its own fucking craziness because you're landing on a ship in the sea. And funny, well, it was fucking hilarious to me because I didn't know it existed, but they have like, when you land on a ship and you get fuel on a Navy ship, there's a dude there that looks like a disco fireman. So he's got like all like this firefighter shit on, but all of it's super reflective. And he just like runs up to your bird and starts filling the thing up. Like I didn't know this guy was coming, and I saw him the first time. I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, so I mean, there's a ton of different things that they have to do. There's like fuck, I can't even remember all of them. There's a bunch of like overwater stuff that we had to do every year to remain like qualified. So we would go out to these places and do overwater ops. And one of them was landing on the ship, but other ones were like landing on these like crazy platform things, but at a certain like speed. And like you get up and land, like I'm doing an awful job of explaining it, but like there's a lot of crazy shit that those guys do, and they do it again and again and again. And that's why we would take the operators in, because the pilots were crazy.
Yeah.
You mentioned you guys kind of rushed across, and I wanted to ask some questions. Your birds got hit 4 different times.
Yeah, small arms.
What was that like? I mean,
it fucking sucks, dude. What do you think it's like?
I mean, like we've all been shot at before from in vehicles or on the ground or whatever, but that's a little bit different when you're in the air. Like, what is that feeling like?
So
I know it's panic, but like, oof.
I'll tell you 3 times that I remember, and then one of them that we kind of found when we landed in the staging area. So one time we were up high because we were supporting somebody that was doing a mission that was a ways away, because sometimes we drop guys in a ways off because they want to do it quiet. So we're up in the air, and then like I start like seeing little pops on the ground, and then a bullet flies in between my legs and it hits the auxiliary fuel tank, which is like behind me. It's this giant fucking tank full of fuel. And that was really scary because we were super high up, and I'm like, we're getting fucking shot. So we displaced pretty quick. Most of the time you want to be low and fast. You want to be doing nap of the earth so nobody can hit you. So that's one time that happened. Another time it was in that same deployment, but we were medium and kind of fast flying, supporting this mission that we were already like close in on. And like they wanted me to be outside of the door looking for somebody, because there was when you hit a target, sometimes people just kind of fucking and leave the target. So depending on the mission set, you either are killing them or capturing them. And if you're not killing them immediately, you kind of have to track them. So like they wanted me to be outside the door tracking this guy. So I open up the door, and then just like kind of immediately, it's just like pink, 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 pink all around me in the door. And I'm like, fuck that. So yeah, that was the second time. The third time, we were actually getting people from a hot LZ. So like we had landed and we had people coming in on the sides, and we were starting to get fire like in the top of the bird. We're like, we need to get the fuck out of here. But that one we couldn't really even see anybody. We had to sit there because we were already like committed to getting the guys, so we weren't gonna like take off and then come back in again. And then the fourth time, we actually took a round through one of the drive shafts for the engine, but we didn't even see it until we landed at the staging area. And usually, like, you get out and you look around the bird to make sure that everything's good, and we're like, "What the fuck is this?" And it was just like dead center through the drive shaft.
Wow.
What does the drive shaft do?
What do you think it does?
It drives shafts.
There you go. Okay, so you've got a turbine engine that is imparting energy to a drive shaft that then twists the rotor, right? So the drive shaft drives the rotor. You got two different engines, one on each side, but it was like one of the sides, it just had a fucking bullet hole straight through the drive shaft.
I don't know how you did it. That alone, I'm cool with flying. Like, we went on a couple Black Hawk missions in Kosovo where they tried to scare the shit out of us, and they were successful.
Not me.
They were successful.
Maybe never want to fuck around with a helicopter, so let alone fucking getting shot at inside of one. I saw Black Hawk Down. Hell no.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are the, like 160th was Black Hawk Down. That's Gothic Serpent.
Yeah. So I've always thought, man, the creation of the 160th back in, what was it, the early 80s, when they attempted to, well, not the 160th, but was it CAG, early CAG, right? They were going out to was it like the Hosky rescue in Beirut or something like that, and they had regular Army pilots, and the pilots got briefed before they're about to take off, and they're like, "You want us to do what? No, fuck no."
Yeah.
And so the whole thing was a wash, and then apparently they tried to take off, something malfunctioned on one of the birds, crashed into a C-130 that had a fuel blivet in there, whole thing went up, people died, and then Big Army was like, you know what, we need pilots who are better than that. Like, these guys are okay, but we need better ones.
Yeah.
And so 160th was born. And fuck, I could just imagine, dude. Like, so Tyree was scared of shit on the Black Hawk in Kosovo. So they flew us out for probably 30 minutes, napped to death, whatever. And in the Balkans, which was a roller coaster to the max. It was amazing. I loved it. I don't even really care for roller coasters, but like, that shit was just amazing. One guy lost his Lucky Charms. The other guy received his Lucky Charms. All over his face. So that was good. Doors were open, and we're just like banking and dropping and elevating, and it was just fucking exciting.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I was like, I would absolutely love to be a crew chief, a pilot, something. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago. There's an Army Reserve aviation unit looking for crew chiefs, and I submitted my name. They flew a mission for us at the Best Warrior competition a couple of years ago, and so that's how we got in link with them. And I submitted my name to it, and I went through the process. But then the deployment they were going on coincided with something else that I had going on in my personal world, and it just wasn't going to work. So definitely one of my another thing to add to my regrets list, because fuck, that would have been badass.
Yeah, our gunnery was nuts. So I mean, there's two configurations where that the birds will fly in, and it's the the miniguns are fixed forward along with all the armaments of the Apache, or the miniguns are free and the crew chiefs are the ones shooting them. But when they're fixed forward, there's kind of a pattern that you get into, a firing pattern, so that everybody can keep each other covered. And there's a part in it where you're braking and pulling, I don't even know how many G's, but wherever you're at in that bird, that's where you're at. You're not moving like that. That's all that's happening. And a lot of times the miniguns would jam. So they're these belt-fed 6-barrel, they're the M134s. I think Wikipedia says 2,000 to 6,000 rounds, but I remember 2 to 4, so we might have had different feeders. But either way, 2,000 rounds per minute is a lot of rounds to be putting downrange. And those guns would jam all the fucking time. And if they jam in flight or in gunnery, like, crew chief's got to go out and fix them, dude. So you're out there, and you're flying 175, 180 miles per hour ground speed, trying to pull this gun apart, feed the ammo back into it, put the fucking thing back together, clear it, get it going so that they can fire it again. And like, you want to talk about shit that's gnarly, like, besides getting shot at, have a gun jam in combat. Like, that is fucking the worst.
Oh man. It takes a special breed, man. You guys are special motherfuckers to be doing that because it ain't me. It ain't me, man.
You ain't the guy. I mean, yeah, it
Are you
was.
are you sitting right now? Are you sitting on your own balls? Because they're gotta be massive, dude. Like, is it like that episode of fucking South Park where he has to
I
walk
was just
around with
hopping
his
around
balls
them.
in a wheelchair? Or
I
not a
mean,
wheelchair, but a wheelbarrow? God
I
damn.
think that we were definitely like the shit we did was cool and it was hard and it was scary, but we weren't on the ground and we were like I said before, like we had so much more armament than anybody that we were going up against. As long as we weren't stupid and flying low and or flying high and slow,
Mhm.
we're just wrecking shop. We were just absolutely destroying these guys.
Yeah, but it's cool to be
It's,
on the ground, but like from the guys on the ground perspective, like up in the air is like the place to be, especially infantry dudes. I mean, tell
yeah,
me,
that's why I fucking reclassed.
can't beat it. I
Yeah,
would want
it
to
was
do
a great time.
bullshitting
Yeah.
around and saying I wouldn't, but like that's like the dream job for anybody who ever watched any kind of movie that had a helicopter in it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Firing that gun out of the back of the helicopter, or even just trying to hit shit out of the back of a helicopter. Like we would like throw rocks at landmarks and stuff, and like it's the dumbest, funnest thing that you'll ever do because you could be at like if you're 250 feet off the ground, you have to lead it different than if you're like 5,000 feet off the ground. Like you drop a water bottle out of the back of a helicopter at 5,000 feet, and you're just sitting there waiting for like a minute and a half, just like, oh, I fucking hit. It's just so stupid and cool.
Um, so you know that uh oh my God. Full Metal Jacket,
Yeah.
the the the
Or
where
you
the
just lead them more. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. That made me think of that. Like, how do you kill women and children? Easy. You just don't lead them as much.
Yeah.
Did you watch
Yeah.
it the day or the night before you went to basic like everyone else?
Say again?
Did you watch Full Metal Jacket like everyone else before they went to basic training?
Oh,
The night
no.
before I did. You didn't? Had
No. I mean, dude, when I got to actually like go in and take the test and everything, I
Mhm.
was stoned as fuck. And the recruiter called me and I was playing Medal of Honor, like the first one.
Oh,
It's like,
that was a good one.
yeah. He was like, your buddy, whatever, like down the road signed up to blow shit up. And I was like, fuck, that sounds rad.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
like,
see the movie until I was in. I never
yeah, I
saw it.
don't remember the first time I saw the movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think a bunch of people we spoke to on the show, like,
A
didn't
lot
you?
of people did, yeah.
Yeah, the night before. I know I did. It was funny.
No, and I can tell you, like in the drill sergeant community, there's a lot of people out there that quote that movie, and it irks me. It's cringy as fuck, dude. Because how hard is it to be original? Apparently, pretty hard for some folks.
Yeah, pretty hard.
It's
Yeah,
gold, man. Can't just leave gold laying there on the ground. You got to
I
pick
don't
it.
know.
it's not gold. It's Vietnam era Marine Corps drill instructors.
It's
Like,
pewter, sir.
choke yourself.
Yeah.
No, man. No, I've always wanted to do the helicopter things. I even now, like when I see them taking off or flying around, I just sit there and stare at them. Like I just lost all ability to move or communicate or think, or whatever. I'm just like a Neanderthal staring. Oh my God, airplane.
Yeah.
I just, they're amazing to me. They're so fucking fun, and I would absolutely. We went on a fucking year. Well, that the best warrior competition. We had the Chinooks out there. First time being in a Chinook, and they flew with the ramp open, and you see the crew chief sitting in the back, and he's obviously tethered in, and he's just feet dangling off the ramp of this thing. I'm like, that is so fucking cool, man. Like I want to just sit there with my feet dangling out. Like I need to change my letters from 11 Bravo to 15 Tango. Give me the fuck over there. Like this is ridiculous. Let me do that.
Well, I don't remember what Chinook is like 15 something else.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it is,
15
but
Chinook.
You had
15.
flown in a helicopter, a Chinook before that. I thought we had
Mm-mm.
one in Iraq at one point.
Nah,
No,
nah, I never did. Oh, when we flew out of Samara, we took a Chinook. Yeah,
yeah,
I forgot about that.
but that shit was fucking nuts too. It was fucking
Yeah,
put it out of there real quick. That was fun. It's
yeah,
good.
yeah. I guess I did do that, but anyway, this was broad daylight, and I guess it was more fun because I could see what was going on, and I remember it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
it is funner to fly during the day. Like
Yeah,
I enjoyed that more than the night stuff. I mean, because you got the heavy ass fucking nods on, and you can't really see shit anyway. Um, so it's like it's not as cool, but
So you decided to get out, and because you're like the tempo is not for my personal liking. So you were in for a total of what, 7 years, 8 years?
7.5
Yeah.
ish.
And you know how they say in the army, like if you make it to 10, you might as well do another 10.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of disagreed with that.
Yeah.
Even though like that's pretty much why I'm still in. I mean, May will be 22 years, and I'm trying to retire this year. But uh, I've kind of always disagreed with that just because, like, I mean, sure, if you're active duty, maybe right, 10 more years you get the pension, blah blah blah. You're 38 to 40 years old, etc. But you know, if you're not happy, if your quality of life is not where you want it to be, you don't get to do all the things that you want to do as a person. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
fully, especially in special operations, right? Like you have to devote your entire life to it.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, yeah, because like if I look at where I'm at now, like I have 2 degrees and a decade of experience in software engineering versus like I could have an even more fucked up body and get out and be maybe a mechanic somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do what's
So
right for you.
yeah, I mean the whole reason I initially reclassed is because the FAA has an agreement with the Army that if you spend 30 months in like a subset of jobs, you basically can test out of the technical school requirement to get an aircraft and power plant license, which is what you need to work on civilian aircraft.
Nice.
So like that was the whole thing. Like I was in to do that because I was going to get out as a scout, and I was like, I don't have any fucking transferable skills in this shit. So like that was the goal, and then I went into the 160th, and I was like, it's pretty fucking cool. And then I was like, okay, this is enough. I'm out.
Yeah.
And then
Now
I
that
was a mechanic for like 6 months, and I was like, this is fucking stupid. I'm gonna go to school.
yeah. Kevin hit on something like after the 10 years, like I did 17 and I got out because
God damn.
I was LAPD at the same time too.
Okay.
So like I totally get like, hey, if it's not good for you, you got to bounce and hopefully you got a good plan, but you got to go
Yeah.
and do what's right for you. But
well, and it's
man,
a little different for you and I, right? Because you know, I'm reserves. You were reserved for the bulk of that latter part of it, and um, you know, when I retire this year, I'm not going to receive benefits until I'm like fucking 60. I'm 40.
that's messed
Really?
Yeah.
up. That.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
you don't get your benefits right away if you retire from the reserve and guard. You have to wait until 60 minus active duty time accrued while in the reserves. And I think it has to be deployments. So like I have like 4 years worth of mobilization and active duty time in the reserves
Mhm.
for a total of 8 federal years, but none of that counts because it's all stateside stuff, right? So like
Ah,
I'm not going to get my retirement until I'm like 60, 59, something like that. And it's an even more it's a reduced amount by comparison to active duty. So I you know, my retirement is not going to be as much as like my active duty counterpart retiring at the same rank, the full 20. So
yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, and you can do your retirement calculator and determine like how much it's going to be, and it's at this point it's like $1,200 a month extra,
Huh.
which is, you
Yeah.
know, $1,200. But
Yeah.
when I'm fucking 60, you
Yeah.
know,
Well, I mean, that's what I get right now because I'm at 60% disabled.
man, you got to pump them numbers up, man.
I know, right?
But that's a big thing too. I'm a huge advocate for the longest time, and you might have been this way. I think Tyree was at this way for a while, but like for the longest time, I refused to even look at that.
Hmm.
I refused to admit that I was disabled because there are guys who are worse off than me, people missing legs, arms, you know, half their face blown off, all their face fucked up. And I'm like, I'm fine. I can, you know, I operate normally. I mean, I have some minor things here and there. Well, then I finally submit for it and then go through the whole process. And they're like, hey, you're actually disabled. So I'm 80%.
Okay, there you go.
Um,
Yeah, no, I was never like that at all. I was like, they fucked me. I'm gonna get mine. So
yeah,
when I got out, I claimed everything, and they did
yeah,
like a month-long battery of tests.
yeah. And that's how it should be. Honestly, I tell trainees this now. Like when you join the army, you join at 100% capability, right? You are
Yeah,
100% able. When you leave the army, whether it's 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 20 years from now, you are not going to be at that 100%.
yeah,
And you're entitled to that compensation on the back end. So
yeah,
absolutely document everything. And I
yeah. The
mean,
documentation is key.
yeah,
Yeah. New people, exactly. A lot of people, a lot of guys that are going through it right now, they don't have certain documentation for certain events that happen, certain injuries. and it makes it extremely difficult. New people listening, it makes it very hard for the freaking VA to get all this shit going for you, or for you to get all this shit going for them, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one reason that I did it when I was getting out, is because like I was still in enough that I could, if I needed anything,
Yeah,
I still had access to it.
mm-hmm.
Fuck, I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. Shit.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, just stay on top of your fucking paperwork, because that's everything. That's
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, there's still ways to around that. I mean, I have ratings for things that are not documented in the military, but through like buddy letters, that helps a lot, tremendously actually, especially if you have people that knew you. But like when it comes to like PTSD specifically, people that knew you before the military and after the military, and like they can articulate the differences in your everything, right? How you act, how you are. That's a big deal, but. No, it's really, really important to definitely document all that stuff. But man, you ought to look at an increase though. I know like filing is such a daunting task, but I mean there's third-party companies out there that like they specialize in that. Yeah.
I mean, I've always been sketched out by it, because like, what if it comes back less? That's the thing that like I'm afraid of.
Yeah. Well, so I'm actually in talks with one. We actually just submitted my stuff earlier this month, and when I did my consult with them, we would talk about like what I already have a claim on, and we would talk about other things. They go head to toe, inside and out, and there were some things that I didn't even think about, and that didn't occur to me. And she was like, "Oh no, that's absolutely a thing." And when it came to, because I had that same question, and she was like, "Well, it sounds to me like that rating is appropriate, so we're not gonna reclaim it."
Oh, so it's just the you're claiming different things to get more rating in total.
Yeah.
Right. Or they'll look at your current ratings and say, so I'm reclaiming a few things because I was rated pretty low. Like, and she was like, she's based on what you're telling me, those ratings actually need to be at this percentage, so we're gonna refile for those.
Yeah.
And so like so they if they do their job correctly, they're not filing for things that could potentially like bring your claim down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they
Well,
have
I mean, I should reclaim that because I'm only at 0% for my giant balls.
You shouldn't get a rating for that, damn it. They're too big. Um, but no, that is a thing though. So like, and especially they have a
the
pretty
giant balls thing.
Yes,
These nuts are too big. It's at least 10%.
Yeah, they have to make listen for each.
Yeah.
How do you even walk? Like it's weird.
Bow-legged, obviously.
Just dragging them along. Can you imagine the bottom part of your scrotum just calloused?
I got wheels on them. A little cart.
A little red wagon.
Yeah.
But no, man, you should definitely look into it. I mean, their fee is kind of steep. It's 5 times the difference. So if you're at 60 and they get you to 100, that difference you owe them 5 times that. But you think about how long it takes for the ratings to go through, 5 to 6 months, and then you just hit them with the back pay, and you're good to go.
Yeah. Right.
So, but yeah, man, it's like I said, I'm going through one. I can send you their contact stuff, and
yeah, for sure.
But because I mean, and you're right, dude. Like you join the military, and there's no way you come out 100%.
Yeah,
capable.
I know anybody that I know that did more than one enlistment is fucked up.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, the crazy thing is that when these guys try and get you to join the army, they're like, here's all the benefits you're going to get. You're going to get all this cool shit. And then as soon as you get in, they try and guilt you to not take any of it or to not like leave the army ever. And you're like, what the fuck happened in between like steps 1 and 2?
Yeah. Well, and so, and we kind of talked about this a little bit yesterday. What do you think the Army kind of prepared you when you were ETSing? Do you think they prepared you for that transition for civilian life?
No. They had like 2 dumbass people who were like, you should get a resume builder. Like, cool, fucking thanks, dude. I had to do all the shit. Like I had to go, like my whole thing was get my AMP license. So I had to go and I had to take this class. I had to go and do all the shit to like actually get all of that done. Like nobody in the Army helped me with any of that. I had to take leave to do that shit.
Really?
Yeah. So like they don't. They have idiots who run workshops that teach you useless shit. And they call that like, transition training.
Yeah. And it's always, I've noticed it's people currently in the military teaching you about this transition. Well, you've never done it.
Yeah, but I know you're supposed to wear a suit everywhere.
Right. Yeah. No, it's wild. So I mean, we left active duty in '05, and man, we had just got back from Iraq. 3 months later, ETS, because
Yep.
stop loss and stop movement was up, and we finally were allowed to leave. And there was nothing. We didn't go to any of that stuff. There was no resume class. There was no how to find a job class. There was none of that shit. When we got back from Iraq, our fucking uh whatever they called it. Right.
Reintegration.
Yeah. So like all that was just a checkup on your medical shit, basically a ginormous PHA. And we talked to a social worker who said, she asked the question, "Do you have PTSD?" I was like, "I don't even know what that is." And she's like, "Oh, well, if you don't know what it is, you probably don't have it. But if you
Yeah.
do have it, any symptoms should subside within 8 weeks." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Right.
And yeah, not knowing what it is, not knowing what the side effects or the symptoms of it are, you
Just sign
know,
this paper and you can be on your way.
exactly. And so when we cleared, there was no questions of that. Like, well, obviously we you had to clear medical, and they go down
Yeah.
there. It's like, do you want a physical? Sure. Okay, you look fine. Okay, cool. And then you go, and then you're home. And
Yeah.
then next
Yeah.
thing you know, all of this shit just fucking rolls downhill. And it's like, what the fuck is happening to me right now? And you have no idea, and there's no support. And this is the early beginnings of GWAT, so nobody knows. There's nobody to talk to,
Yeah.
and now you got to find a fucking job.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky that, when I got out, there was guys who I was friends with that got out like 6 months, a couple months before I did. So I got to see like the whole process they were going through. One of my buddies, Steve, like his back was so fucked up. Like he would be like laying on the ground when we were doing gunnery after like loading in missiles and ammo and stuff, just like in just the worst pain, getting like steroid shots every other day. So he went through a lot of that stuff where he was getting like looked at and getting ratings and stuff. So I knew what he did and I knew what should do. So I mean, like I had like a sleep study done. I had like they had like a checklist. Do you have any of this? I'm like, yeah, I got fucking mumps. I got all of it.
Yeah.
Right.
like,
Fucking
yeah,
keyword, sleep study, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Get
Yeah,
it
that's a
done.
big one. That's a big one.
That one's super
Always.
weird, man. It's super weird.
All hooked up, trying to
You're
sleep.
all hooked up and you know somebody's like outside looking at you.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Like, how
And
do
I
you
mean,
know
like,
they're not sneaking in there and sniffing your butt while you're asleep?
I hope they are. I hope
I
they can.
mean, are they recording things? Like I have gas when I go to sleep. So like I'm holding in farts trying to sleep and it doesn't fucking work.
Just let it loose, man. Just be
I mean,
you.
I did eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never actually done a sleep study. I don't want to, because of all of those things. Plus, like, you got all those like uh the things all over your head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you wear like a cap that has a bunch of shit on it, and then you have like some that are on your body. I mean, it wasn't super bad. I mean, I would still like if people getting out think that they have sleep apnea, they should definitely do a fucking sleep study because like CPAP machines and all that shit aren't cheap.
That saved your life too.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten what do they call that? A heart stress test? Have you ever gotten one of those done?
No,
So they give you an injection, and all of a sudden your heart will just race like crazy, like
that doesn't sound cool.
at its maximum amount. Yeah, it's fucking freaky, and then it goes back down, and they just measure your ability for your heart to like regain its composure. I have high blood pressure, so that's the kind of shit I have to do.
Oh,
And
I mean, I have high blood pressure too. But I take like a super small amount of lisinopril,
okay,
like the lowest dose you can get.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I don't want to do that because like, what
Yeah,
if you're in the situation where your heart doesn't regain composure and like, oh fuck, this guy failed. Whoops.
exactly. Yeah, that's the I'm like I can run, I can go run, I can go jump over a wall and then come check me out, watch me chill out, and I'll be good. Like no, we have to do it this way. I'm like all right, well, all right,
They
Pete.
give you the speed.
Yeah, exactly. I can take this line and get
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, that doesn't sound scientific to me.
It's what
Well,
happened,
I
man.
mean, it was a guy in a van and it was in an alleyway, but he had like a really cool shirt on.
He was wearing glasses, so you know
Yeah.
it's real.
Yeah. All I had to do was suck the medicine out of this tube.
Yeah. It's flesh colored
Mhm.
and flavored.
Jesus.
Tastes like dick.
Less
Anyway.
less flavored, huh? I'd know that taste anywhere.
It got dark
Yes.
quick, just quick.
Holy shit. Hey, so when you were a scout, Did you ever walk around saying you were basically infantry?
I said it before, as
Yeah.
far as like the mission set that we had in Iraq, like we weren't doing scout shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I didn't say like we're fucking infantry, we're going on blah blah blah. Like I didn't do it as like a point of valor. I did it as look at this bullshit we have to do. We're
Yeah.
basically fucking infantry.
Yeah.
So we were in Kosovo and we took a scout out on a mission and like he's a Humvee with us and he's sitting there going on and on and on about how like the scouts are better than infantry. We're just a bunch of like fucking nerds and this and that and other and we're like shut the fuck up. But
Yeah,
like all these years later, I'm in the reserves and I'm working with other MOSs and I'm hearing the stories that they had when they go down range, and I'm like, damn, you did some shit too.
yeah,
And you start to learn that like yeah, you might have 11 Bravo as your primary MOS, but there's 31 Bravos out there, 19 Deltas, fucking 13 Bravos out there, 13 Foxes out there doing shit that like fucking 92 Yankees in fucking convoys, fucking running and gunning. Like,
MMS,
like,
somebody needs pens.
yeah,
Stat.
yeah.
dude, it's a
Everyone
thing.
don't matter if you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
All that shit goes out the window. That's when training kicks in. Hopefully, you got good training from that fucking
Yeah.
school that you went
Well, I
to.
mean, yeah, all those mechanics that came out to recover our vehicles, dude, they were coming out as
Oh my God, bro. Like when that tank went down, our mechanics came out and fixed track and road wheel like in sector.
yeah,
The motor pool, we had a patrol base in town called PB Uani, and the motor pool was nicknamed the mortar pool because it always took hits daily, mortars
yeah,
and rockets. Well, that's also where the mechanics worked. We had one mechanic, dude, the freaking first ID sergeant major, the divisional sergeant major was out visiting, and he was checking out the motor pool and everything, and fucking when you know it, fucking mortars come in, and he gets fucking shrapnel in the face. One of our mechanics took a huge chunk of shrapnel in his gut, right below his IBA because they have to be out there. That's the thing. They're out there in their body armor working on fucking Bradleys.
yeah,
Fuck that.
yeah.
No, those guys were hard, man.
I mean, I got pictures of us doing that shit, like putting on that reactive armor, changing track.
Yeah.
Like, I get pictures of me in my fucking body armor and a t-shirt doing that
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to them. That's fucking hardcore too.
Yeah. No,
Sucked.
it's, yeah, man.
We didn't have helmets on though, which was funny. Like
right.
sitting there in
Yeah.
like soft caps and a fucking and the vest.
Mm.
Sometimes the army just doesn't make sense most times. So would you say though, like, okay, so you did your 7.5 years, two different MOSs, you transition into civilian life. Life is better.
Yeah.
Like 1,000%.
I mean, because of the army or
Yeah, that's actually I like that. I like the idea of that question just because, and I wasn't thinking it until you said it, so it's your question. But anyway, I mean, do you think the army like got you to where you are? Do you think it played a role in that?
yeah. I mean, so I grew up in a trailer park, dude. So I came rough. Uh, so like the army, my time soldiering was born out of ambition to get the fuck out of where I was at. And it propelled me and allowed me to do that stuff. And I got bachelor's degree for free. I got my master's for half price because I was a resident of Washington when I got a Purple Heart. Um, so like it set me up 100%. It made me a man, gave me discipline and all that shit. But it's like the army gives with one hand, but it takes with two. So you just have to be smart enough to not get face fucked
Yeah.
too much. I mean, you'll get
Um,
face fucked enough to know the taste of penis, but then after that, you can forget about it.
Either you dig it or you fucking keep it, you know.
yeah.
That's why people stay in, or so I hear.
Yeah.
I no response. It is a love hate for sure, and retirement will be bittersweet for sure. But I kind of feel that same, that like, uh, when you're in the military, you have this purpose, the sense of purpose, the overall mission, right? And then you get out, and you're like, well, what's my purpose? What's my thing? But it sounds like you already had a game plan established long before you got out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I like it at the age that I'm at right now. I mean, I'm 30. I'm gonna be 38 in a couple weeks. Um, you don't need a fucking purpose, dude. Like I got out and I was like, I'm gonna do all this cool shit. I'm gonna be a fucking CTO of a tech company. And then like you work for a while and you're like, I'd rather just make a good amount of money, get some land, get a house, have some fucking dogs, hang out with my wife. Like, it doesn't need to be like this, like overarching purpose to the entirety of your life, other than maybe just enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Motherfuckers need to enjoy life. Live it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. You know, I watched the podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast with Mike Glover, and that's one thing he was talking about is like, you know, he did all these years in special operations as a Green Beret, and then you get out and he's a CIA contractor, and life is fucking boring. And a lot of these dudes that he worked with in group, you know, they get out and they don't have that same purpose. The op tempo is much slower, and so then they kind of just lose track of everything, and then they, you know, call it quits. Right? They're taking their own lives
Yeah.
because they're not establishing some kind of purpose. But fuck, man, you think like in certain types of jobs, especially like in special operations, like your purpose is, you know, that objective or training to hit that objective, you know, hard and fast and lethally. Um, and and then you get out of the military and that objective is no longer a thing. And I think you kind of like you just kind of forget that like life is meant to live.
Yeah.
And your purpose is, you don't have to have some kind of purpose that's like within that same realm. I mean, you're working in a field very similar, I think, right, to
Yeah.
what you did as a 15 Tango,
Yeah.
but like that's not your. I wouldn't. Your job isn't your purpose,
No.
right?
And I mean, like when I got out, like it's like, what's the hardest thing that I can do? I could be a fucking rocket scientist. So let's go get a degree in that. And then I go and I do that and I'm working in software and these like really smart dudes are coming in talking about like all this theory that I don't know. I'm like, fuck it, man. I'm gonna get a master's in rocket science. I'm gonna do that. And then I get that and I'm like, this is like, it's cool. Software is pretty cool, but like, I don't even want to write software anymore. I'd rather just be like a people manager and kind of just manage the projects that we do and spend more time walking around at home making stupid videos for TikTok. Like it just
Yeah,
That's
people think they have to do so much stuff and like you spend so much time chasing. Like I think a lot of dudes that didn't do like the military or anything harder, like those are the guys that go out and run like fucking 50 ultra marathons, or like they try and do like just all this like man shit to find their manliness. And like you don't need to, bro. Just drink a fucking daiquiri if you want to. Fuck.
yeah. You don't have to be a CEO right now immediately. You can work in a
You don't have to be a CEO ever.
yeah.
You could just chill out.
yeah. I like it. Um, yeah, I mean, and it seems way less stressful too.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing, man. When you're out there trying to like hustle and like build this like empire and become your own CEO or do this and do that and trying to live up to these standards that are like pushed on like social media, you know, you just kind of the stress that comes along with that, like, you know,
Yeah. Like
it's
what's the
just,
end game?
yeah. Where does it stop?
Yeah, where does
That's
it
one.
stop? And then
That's one thing
High
that I liked
blood
about your
pressure.
videos. That's one thing I liked about your videos though, is like you're sitting there in what I assume is your garage gym
yeah.
telling these stories and you're just so like humble and nonchalant about them. Like you know, like when you told the story about like taking a shit on mission, like
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's just like
A fucking kid, man.
the dude that was not expecting that. When you were telling that story, I was like, this fucking kid just sat there like eye to eye with you. Man, get
Dude,
the
he
fuck
didn't
out of
fucking
here.
budge. It was the creepiest goddamn thing. Like, I mean, because I can retell a bit of it. Like, if
Yeah,
it's
go
fun. But
ahead,
anyway,
man.
so like, I'm on a raid. I have to take a shit. I drop down the side of the road, and I find a tree. And I start shitting, and I look up, like, and I'm already like, you're mid shit. You can't unshit a shit. You're already there shitting. I look up, and there's this fucking kid with his foot on a soccer ball, just dead eyeing me. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Come on, man. And he just stood there for like 5, 10 minutes watching me shit. And I just get my M4 at the low ready. I'm like, if this kid tries anything, like, I don't want to shoot a kid while I'm taking a shit, but I will shoot a kid while I'm taking a shit if he gets super weird about it. And then, like, I just got out of there as fast as I could. I don't even know if I told anybody about it until like after we had gotten out of there. I was like, that was so weird.
Imagine like being the only guy with a confirmed kill while taking a shit.
Or also imagine being that kid and some dude with a gun drops in your backyard and starts shitting.
He
That's
was
my
watching.
favorite fucking tree.
He was cool with
It's
it
like,
at
bro,
first.
what?
The gun came up. He's like, "Fuck, what do I do?"
Yeah,
Watch it, I guess, and pull this out.
it's so fucking weird. Like it's just so weird on both sides. Like, and a lot of stuff that happens. A lot of like just weird cultural stuff that happened in Iraq. Like I was not even you don't even expect it. I mean, even like the cultural stuff in the army, like that's what I think the strength of the army is, that it's like this cultural like equalizer where a lot of dudes that get born or raised rough in like different areas are like all brought together. Like all my buddies when I was a scout, like I grew up in a town where there's like one black guy and he played basketball. So that's what I fucking knew. And then I get to my unit and it's like a million different black dudes from a million different places. Like dudes from Chicago, dudes from Mississippi, and they're all like completely fucking different, or dudes from like Mexico, or just all over the place. And you're like, these guys are the same exact thing that I am. And it teaches you a lot about humanity.
Mm.
And it gives you people to tell stories about when a kid wants you to take a shit.
No, dude, absolutely. My man, so when I first met Tyree, or like early on, right, Brandon, he was new to the unit. I've been there for 6 months. And I was talking to some of the other dudes in the platoon about System of a Down playing in fucking Paris. We were stationed in Germany, right? And we're like, dude, fucking System's playing in Paris. And he's walking by, Tyree is, and he's like, did you say System of a Down? I'm like, just kind of like in disbelief that this black guy from Inglewood knows System of a Down. I'm like, what do you know about System of a Down? He's like, shut the fuck up. I don't listen to like NWA every day. You do what I mean? Um, like I'm not blasting Jay-Z only, you know what I mean? And it just like, because I'm from small town Arkansas, and you know, same thing. We had black guys in school, and they played sports, and they listened to gangster rap and in the '90s, and that's what I knew. And so when I first found out that Tyrese from Inglewood, I'm like, from the songs, that's a place, it's real. Did you know Snoop? Did you know Dre? You know, and
did you go to the cookouts?
I mean, did you have a lowrider?
Like, yes, I had all that
Yeah.
for sure. They're my homies.
Yeah. No, I was completely floored. I was that typical
Twitty.
huh?
I said, now put on that Conway Twitty.
Yeah, right.
When we were talking, man, like the fucking a little bit of smoke puffed out of your ears, like what? Like, man, it's fucking good music. And if you don't like good music, there's something wrong with you. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my buddy Sean, when I was at Fort Hood, one of my best friends was he played like tight end at Maryland. At least that's what he told us. I never double checked that shit, but like I thought that I knew rap music, but he introduced me like old ass Tupac, like a bunch of old like soul music, and I was like, this is fucking sick. And it's the greatest thing about the army is that culturally you get exposed to so much shit that you wouldn't get exposed to if you hadn't joined, like fucking mariachi music and dudes cooking tacos on hot plates in their barracks room. Like,
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, man. So that's why I say like it's definitely a love hate because of that. Like I am definitely a better person because of the military, but there are definitely things about the military that I just don't wish on other people. So it's the good with the bad kind of thing. Um, but yeah, dude. Tyree, what do you think?
I think it's time to close this one out, man. This was an awesome show, and
Oh shit, it has been.
yeah, it's been
That's
going
kind of
on.
flown. That's kind of flown by.
It always does, man. I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Fucking Matt Stryker.
That's right.
That is a badass name, man. Fucking jealous.
That's sick. It would have been even cooler if it was Batman.
That would come on, Batman. Matt,
well, we were
Matt
actually
Batman.
going. We were like Thrash was kind of the leader for a while, but then my wife wanted to do like her own like design company, and she was like, Thrash Design doesn't sound exactly like a great design company, but like Stryker Striking Design would be good. So we settled on that.
I worked with Lieutenant Thrash. He was a drill sergeant Thrash at one point, so that's kind of rad. But anyway,
before we let you go, you have anything to anybody give a shout out to? Any last messages or anything?
Not really. I mean, if you like the stories, I have, like I said, I got like 35 in the backlog. I put it out like one or two a week.
What's your socials?
So everything is Matt Boo Do Lift though. So it's MATTBU _ DO _ LIFT _ THO.
That's a lot.
Initially, I was going to do fitness stuff, and then I just started telling these stupid fucking stories.
I enjoy both aspects of that because I mean you do have some on there, but like Yeah, like we're gonna obviously tag all your stuff in there anyway on all of our posts and everything in the description, so it'll be easy for people to find you. But dude, great fucking hearing some of these stories from you in real time. Uh, fuck yeah, man. I hope your account grows, man. Because like I said, you're a great storyteller, and you have some pretty funny fucking stories.
Thanks, man.
Oh yeah.
So I'll close this out and turn everyone down. Thank you for listening to Before I Forget. Please like, listen, share, subscribe, watch, share with your friends, subscribe. Thank you, Mr. Match Stryker, for coming on. Badass stories, man. Some awesome shit. Like now I wish I had fucking tried to figure out how to fly stuff and not be such a pussy. Thank you for listening to Before I Forget. Y'all have a good one.